Welcome to our new monthly webinar series for the year of 2021. My name is Mary Jo Faustian, and I'll be presenting these seminars for you in the hope that you can gain some insight and some tools to use so that you can go forward. The topic this month is Hope, Optimism, and Personal Growth. And I thought that was an appropriate topic for the beginning of 2021, since these are things we all want to deal with right now. So you might be thinking, how can we have hope when there's a global pandemic right now? How can we have hope when there's so many vaccine problems with the rollout and with all the mutations? How can we be optimistic when there's so much uncertainty in the world? How can we be optimistic when there's so much political division in our country? How can I personally grow when I'm so isolated from my friends and my family, and I'm so anxious about getting together with other people? Well, hope is the desire, and more than the desire, but the expectation for something good to happen in your life or in other people's lives. You need to look for opportunities. You need to look for possibilities. Look for options in your world. Look for ways to think about the future, ways to kind of brainstorm in your head, okay? So examples of this, of course, might be, we're all looking forward to the new normal with the end of the pandemic. Or it might be something more personal where you're hoping for more unity in your family, better communication with your spouse or your children. Whatever you want, whatever you're hoping for, you can create a better future for yourself and for other people as well. So what gives you hope? Might be different for all of us, might be different for different people. Might be an end to a problem you've been worried about for a long time. Might be a new beginning, maybe a new job, a new direction, maybe a new career, a new day. You know, I have a plaque in my house. It says, every day is a gift. And I was able to really appreciate that after my cancer diagnosis 2 years ago. I began to realize that every day really is a gift and that I can appreciate every day. And I started realizing how wonderful the wonderful healing power of our bodies are. Not only healing from, simple things like a cold or the flu, but things like tuberculosis, things like COVID-19. That is a possibility. We have a marvelous immune system that the Creator gave us. And what I found in my counseling with people is that the people who have a faith in a higher being, a higher power, a creator, whatever religion they are, whatever belief system they are, they seem to have more of hope in life. They seem to have more of a joy about them. Even though they're going through problems, they may have a lot of anxiety or depression, but they had this overlying hope that things will get better, that they can trust that things will get better. And that's an important piece so that we don't go into despair and into depression. So in life, oftentimes doors open, doors close. Doors close sometimes for, maybe you've lost a job, maybe you've lost a loved one. And for me, as I've said before in these seminars, one of the hardest parts in my life was when I lost my mother when I was 17. I loved my mother dearly. I was very, very close to her. But I didn't realize at that time that there would be other doors that would be open in my life after she died. My father found a wonderful, loving lady after that to marry my wonderful stepmother right now. And I also found the man I would eventually marry, and I love him dearly. And so doors can open, doors can close. Which ones do we focus on? If you stay focused on the closed doors in your life, it's very possible that you could go down into that despair and that depression and stay there. And it can even paralyze you in life to the opportunities that might be there. You may not see them, you may not take them. So I do encourage you, if some sort of opportunity opens for you, that you assess, whether you think it's right or not right to go through that door into that new opportunity, and to take action on that, because you don't know what you're going to come up against. Maybe some positives, maybe some negatives. But if you stay with your closed doors all your life, you may be very pessimistic and bitter in life. And that's not a healthy way to go forward in life. So let's talk about optimism and pessimism. Now, a pessimist in these days, when it's so cold here in Minnesota, it's easy to kind of be pessimistic about the weather. So a pessimist would say, I hate this cold. I can't stand this cold. I always hated this weather. I never wanted to move here. I never want a job out in the cold. I don't want to go out in the cold. And it's just crummy and I can't stand it. Okay. So they kind of stay there with that attitude. An optimist, however, will be just the opposite. Well, the sun's out today. I can focus on that. The days are getting longer. I like that. It's getting closer to spring. I can be glad I have heat today. I can't control the weather, but I can control my attitude. So these are all things that we can work on. And these are controllable things. These are ways we can change our brain and be optimistic about life. I always encourage realistic optimism. In other words, this garden kind of looks like the garden I've had in the summer. It's certainly not very perfect and it doesn't look very beautiful all the time. But I can choose to look at those flowers that are blooming there. I can choose to look at the benches that are over there. I can go sit and be quiet in my garden for a little bit of time. Maybe bring a book. And I can just enjoy the fact that it's there. And I don't have to focus on the weeds. I don't have to focus on the things that aren't blooming right now. I don't have to focus on the imperfections of the garden. What I can do is tell myself and others about the positive pieces of it. Okay, so the fence doesn't look so good, but at least I've got a fence and that keeps out some of the rabbits. Stop comparing yourself and life to the perfect, because perfect doesn't happen very often. And that can lead us, if we are always seeking the perfect, to be eternally frustrated because we haven't got the perfect. And so optimism is so important when you have some hard times in your life, whether it's raining or storming or what's happening in your life, to accept the reality that you have, because that is reality. And you may not be able to change that, but you can get some serenity, like the serenity prayer, to accept what you can't change. And that is so important. Otherwise, you're so frustrated trying to get what you can't change, like other people to change their attitude, other people to change their belief system, other people to do things for you. And maybe to change the things that I can change, which sometimes takes a lot of energy and courage, which is I can change my attitude. Okay, so case in point, last Thanksgiving and last Christmas, sorry about that. Those 2 days, those 2 holidays, we had pipes burst in our house. And if you ever tried to get a plumber on Thanksgiving or Christmas Day, very, very hard. But we were able to get one. And I was really nervous. I didn't know, what was going to happen, how much this was going to cost. but I was able to try to, focus on, okay, whatever is wrong, we're going to get it fixed. These are old pipes. They're likely to break. So we're just going to get them fixed now and be done with it. And so a couple months later, we're finally getting them fixed. And yes, it's costing a lot of money, but we did get some money through our insurance, and that's helping us to pay for it. So positivity, even in hard times. But optimism doesn't just come easy for all of us. It requires some work. It doesn't just happen. For some of us who are optimists and you were born that way, maybe it isn't so much work, but for many of us, it does take that cognitive work in your brain to reframe those negatives that you've got, to focus on the positives rather than the negatives, to believe in your future and not concentrate on the past, and to be able to change your stress producing thoughts to stress coping thoughts. And that is one of the primary things that I've given people in my counseling sessions that they've said that really helps them as they focus on that. So a couple of cases and points, I'm going to take one day at a time. I can do what I can do. I can't do everything, but I can let go of what I can't do something about. I'm not going to worry. I need to let it go. I need to focus on those positives that I do have. So that kind of leads you into a gratitude list. When you work on being optimistic, it's amazing how that kind of intertwines with joy in life and serenity. So having those positive statements to focus on, it can lead us to more joy in life. Smiling itself can release endorphins in the brain and lead to more happiness. It's a happy chemical. Laughing is a release of tension. This also can release those endorphins in the brain. Music and dance can lead us to joy. And finding serenity. How about living one day at a time instead of focusing so much on the past or way in the future? One day at a time. That's so hard for us in our day and age right now. To be able to enjoy one moment at a time, one breath at a time, appreciating, accepting. But that requires letting go of those other negative things, the sadness that we have, the anxiety, the fear, maybe the anger at somebody that we have. Okay? To let go of that so that we can have some serenity in life, some joy. And so to be able to achieve this state of well-being, this state of comfort, acceptance, peaceful existence in life, and gratitude for what you do have. Isn't this beach scene wonderful? That's what we need in the middle of winter. But if you can't have that beach scene right now, maybe you can pet your cat. I know that sounds silly, but petting your cat gives you a very joyful feeling, a very calm feeling. Or pet your dog, or be able to talk with your friend. That state of well-being is just so important to have. And some people, what I found in doing my therapy sessions, some people really need to find a meaning and a purpose in their life again, because they may have lost it and they've kind of sunk into depression and despair. A meaning and purpose in life, especially if you are trying to focus on helping other people, it really can be very, very productive for your life. And now we come to personal growth. How do we do that? Well, it's important to be very self-aware of what's going on inside of you as well as around you, okay? To be able to evaluate yourself with your positives and your negatives, your strengths and your weaknesses. How can you build on the strengths that you do have? How can you work on the weaknesses that you have? Because all of us have both strengths and weaknesses, and we can use them both to go forward. And going forward in life may be very different for all of us. And each of one of us may take a different path, and that's okay. For us to be okay with the fact that we can do it differently than other people, but to be able to focus on what you can do right now for you. What do you need to do to go forward? Do you need some internal work? Do you need some healing in your life? Do you need some support because you've been going through a lot? You can do this through therapy. You can do this through support groups, even on the internet, to be able to find ways to do that internal work of working on your stuff, working on your depression, your anxiety, your eating disorder, whatever that is. And then there's the external work. How am I going to figure out how to get a job? How am I going to figure out how to get unity back in my family? What can I do? And maybe you need some coaching, some mentoring. Well, we can help you also in therapy with that. But maybe you have a person that is important in your life that you can go to that can help you, that you trust. That's an important piece that maybe they can help kind of help you problem solve that piece. But whatever, whether it's internal work or external work, we all need a plan to go forward. And in doing your internal work, this is what I encourage people to do, to work on those inner virtues that sometimes we've forgotten to work on. So the patience with the little frustrations in your family, with your children, with your spouse or your loved one, to be able to be humble enough to apologize when you've blown up at somebody, to be able to listen, to understand other people, not just to talk at people, to be able to forgive others so that you don't stay stuck in your stuff, in your bitterness and your negativity, and to be able to find an unconditional love for people that you love, even if they're frustrating at times. Very important that these virtues can be worked on by all of us, and all of us need them. And in planning for your own personal growth, I always encourage both long-term goals and short-term goals. Okay, both are very important. And it's a very important thing to do it stepwise. It's important also to realize that, as you do it stepwise, you're anticipating that goal. And what happens is there's a chemical that's released in the brain that actually can help you feel happy. It's released for reward and motivation. So when you're really motivated to do a goal, that's when the dopamine is released. And it's released in the forebrain in a very special part of the brain called the striatum and the basal ganglia. And it's interesting that, there's chemicals that actually can help us in the body that we have naturally, okay? So take the goal that a lot of us have at this point in 2021, and that is that, maybe I'd like to lose a couple of pounds before spring, before summer. Maybe you're anticipating maybe going on a trip. Maybe you want to live better at the beach or at the pool. For me, my motivation is I would like to be able to get back out on the tennis court. I was able to go out and play tennis last year, and it made me feel so good because that's one of the sports that I really enjoy. But for us to be able to take a stepwise approach right now, if we want to lose a couple of pounds because we've gained a few over the winter months when it's so cold and all we wanted to do was bundle up and have some comfort food, that's very understandable. But now taking a stepwise approach, maybe 1 or 2 less cookies a day or a little less pasta when you have your spaghetti, all those things, add up, as well as a little bit more of that exercise that can also release endorphins into the brain, another happy chemical. So whatever you need to plan for, whenever you need to have as your goal, be willing to look at stepwise, okay? If you've ever seen that movie, What About Bob? There's a great part in there where they're talking about baby steps. And if you have baby steps in mind when you do your goal planning, it can help you as you go forward to get to your goal. And as you work on your hope, as you work on your optimism in life, as you work on developing that plan for your own personal growth, I think you're going to find that you have a brighter future, you feel better about your life, you have more of that well-being, and you can find that you can have more serenity and actually a happier life. And that would be my hope for all of you, that you have that in your future. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing you again in one of these webinars.